Sandy Alcantara, post-game, comes out there saying, this offense doesn't score any runs for me. The Marlins dropped the series in San Diego. Tons to get into after some explosive comments, post-game comments from Sandy Alcantara. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, on Twitter or X at Miami Marlins _UK. If you're listening to the pod, of course, hit subscribe. This is your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It is an off day as well. There is a YouTube channel, of course. Head on over there, hit subscribe. Join the fun. Join the comments as well. The comments in YouTube are gold, baby. They can be explosive, but they are gold. So head on over there. Make sure you are part of the action. And welcome, guys. It's Thursday, the 24th of August. It is an off day. And if you are watching, you will see I have a guest, and it is the Loud Marlins fan back in the house. Chase, how we doing, brother?
It's a Thursday, Pete, a day off, a day of reflection, and a day to celebrate 1,000 subscribers and over.
Let's go. Absolutely. It is a day of reflection, I think, both for the Marlins. Equally, we're going to talk about some league-wide news as well. And there'll be a time to reflect on, there's some tough news, I would say, that's been dropping for the best player in the game at the moment and maybe one of the best pitchers there's been for some time as well. So, yeah, we'll dig into that. Before we get into it, though, and we do want to start today's episode talking about yesterday's game, the day game, obviously, Sandy Alcantara going. We want to get into that and get into his, not only the start itself, but what happened after the game. Before we do that, this episode is sponsored by Bunches, and you can download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description show notes to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. All right, Chase. So the Marlins dropped another one yesterday. They were shut out. And it feels like that's been a bit of a constant story recently. The offense has gone really cold since it came alive against an injured Tony Gonsolin. Since I bigged up the offense saying this lineup is so deep and can bang and hang with anyone. Old Pete Pratt curse is real, mate. So Sandy then, it wasn't vintage Sandy. He wasn't absolutely on his game. He gave up a homer, couple of walks in there. It wasn't his best start by any stretch. But after the game, to come out and to call out specifically multiple times that he's getting no run support, he's blasting the offense in public. First time we've heard that from Sandy. I was taken aback by those comments. What about you?
I was ecstatic that he finally came out and called out the offense that has sucker punched his excellency for multiple seasons. He won last year's Cy Young alone. It wasn't the help of wins. It wasn't the help of the offense, the lack of offense last year. That was last year. He dealt with it. This year, we're in contention. The stress, the pressure is building. And he's just sick and tired of getting 1 run, 2 runs, or no runs in his great starts. And when he didn't have it yesterday, it finally came out. You got to think some of that frustration was also, the umpiring. He's not getting the calls he should all the time. We get stressed by it. Imagine what he's feeling. But overall, it's about time he comes out and throws the team a bone, saying, I need your help. Let's get it together. Hit some runs for me and make it less pressure for me so we can win.
I absolutely understand the frustration. And boy, oh boy, did you see him exiting the game. We see that every now and again where he leaves the game and the glove gets it. The glove gets it. So does all the paraphernalia around in the dugout, like the bubble gum holders, the cups, Skip Schumacher seeds. I don't know. Everything is open for being bust up by Sandy, and the glove gets it. We see it every now and again. There's probably once a year, maybe. So maybe this is his annual blow up on the dugout, on the bench specifically. Another funny element too, that I don't know if people saw this, as he's kind of walking down the dugout before this blow up happens, Yuri Perez actually steps back, tries to go and greet Sandy, almost kind of pat him. He realized that it wasn't the moment for that. He just kind of turned around and left Sandy too. It was a bit of a funny moment. You know, Yuri's learning already, mate.
Yep, exactly.
But what did you make of that? I mean, the other thing to say on Sandy, the fact that he's the glove gets it. The other thing that I thought about as well is he's a pro, because some guys, they're going fist first and then they're out. Sandy isn't doing that, so the glove gets it, mate, which is the right way.
He's protecting his body when he does that. He's smart enough not to injure himself. That would just destroy the rest of the season. And, he had to let it out. It's going to happen. They all get frustrated. It was a combination of multiple things. He'll probably eventually apologize, say, I could act better, more mature, etc. But, as a fan, you appreciate his competitiveness. As Skip said, there's no one more competitive on this team than Sandy. So hopefully it wakes them up. It's not fair to him. Although I will say Friday night, he had the most run support that he's gotten in his whole career. So maybe it was just the time of the game.
It's frustrating, right? Because, it's not been great this second half. The All-Star break kind of came at the wrong time for the Fish, and they haven't quite got out of second gear since, really. And, Sandy knows the importance of every game. And I think that's at the heart of this, really, is he knows this team is in the mix. Kim's called it out, I think, yesterday, was speaking to the media. And kind of calling out that the Marlins are in a position that ahead of the season, irrespective of being 14 over at one point this year, at the start of the year, we would have been more than happy to be within 2 of the wild card spot right at the back end of August. It's absolutely the Marlins' control and destiny to make it, but every game matters. Every game matters. And I think that's it. We're starting to see it heightened with Sandy because other than 2020, he's never been in this situation where the games actually matter. It's like the team wins matter more than him going 8 innings, 1 earned. I mean, the two are connected, but I think that's the key difference here. And we're seeing maybe the frustration boiling over here with Sandy, with the rest of the guys, actually. It isn't just Sandy.
It starts with him, at least yesterday. I mean, look, they want to be better. You got to give the team some credit for always fighting back, right? Like even last night or yesterday afternoon, morning your time, they basically they came back. You had the tying run at the plate, of course. Hampson strikes out, but I'm not gonna. He just got off the plane. I'm not gonna put that on him. He just got back up. They're not putting in effort, but it is frustrating when you get men on base so many times. You got Rise, you got Bell, you got Berger. Jazz is in a little slump, but he got a hit yesterday. You have all these combinations 1 through 6, 1 through 5 coming through, but then you get to that bottom of the lineup, and it's just something stops. I'm not going to call anybody out here. We know what it is. It's just frustrating, and they're going to fix it. If they weren't frustrated, that would be the problem. If they weren't calling each other out, if they were just okay with losing, that's a problem. They want to get to the playoffs, and they want to make noise.
Absolutely.
You said something, if you don't mind me calling it out. You just said,
Please.
At the beginning of the season, you and I spoke. We had, where do you see the team? We said around 500 would be great. You don't go from a 69-win team usually to a World Series win. Very rare. This team is doing something we haven't seen in 20 years. I'm not counting 2020. We haven't seen in 20 years this team make a postseason run in a full season. You see the arms are getting tired. We'll talk about Luzardo, how great of a game he had. But we would be so happy, and that's why I'm always positive. You got the fans who are like negative. Oh, the world's crashing down. We're so far from out of it, Pete.
Absolutely.
And because they care so much, because the frustration is coming out, that just shows that they're going to beat it. They're going to get through it, and got to get hot. We'll discuss that too.
We absolutely will. One final piece before the first ad. You mentioned it. Yesterday, the game, I mean, we're thinking, oh my days, is there going to be some more Marlins voodoo here where they end up with the bases juiced against Josh Hader? The Marlins have got form for blowing up Hader, and Garrett Hampson ends up with that key at bat. The reason Garrett Hampson is there, yeah, absolutely, but the reason the Garrett Hampson is there, Avisail Garcia ends up injuring his hamstring, legging one out to first base, goes to the IL. Really good chance that I think Avi's done for the year, probably. I don't know. I mean, it just hasn't worked out for Avi, but I do wonder if that is going to be his final at-bat as a Marlin. It was an RBI, so he ground in, got an RBI with a ground out, legged it out to first base and injured himself. In many ways, that feels kind of synonymous maybe with Avisail Garcia's tenure here as with the Marlins, but I'm struggling to see a future for Avi in Miami, and I think that probably is his final at-bat, which is kind of sad in some ways. Just, the Marlins had the right intentions, but Avisail Garcia just has not performed. When you look at it, he has not been able to perform at anywhere near his levels, and I don't know the reasons why, but this is on Avi, and he came in heavy that first year, and he's never recovered from that. And I don't know what's happened, but I think his time's done. What about you?
September 1st is coming very soon, and they're going to have 2 call-ups on September 1st, whether it be arms or bats. I'm leaning on the bats. Regarding Avisail Garcia, his first at-bat in a Marlins uniform was in spring training 2022. And he hit a monster bomb home run in his first swing ever in a Marlins uniform. Well, his last swing is a ground out. And that is that. It's sad. It's sad for multiple reasons. One, we wasted the ownership, not my money. The ownership's wasted their money. Jeter's last move was to bring him in. I think you saw Craig Mish yesterday kind of clarify to a fan who said, who was this on? And he said, look, Kim Ng was part of it, but she is not the one who negotiated that contract. That was Jeter's final straw, final move. And it didn't pan out. It's the whole Jeter era, all mixed up and wrapped up in that. It didn't pan out. And you wish obviously all the best. We're going to talk Strasburg probably later. But Avisail, go take your money. Have fun. Go live the Gene Segura life. It's sad to see you get injured. No one wants to ever wish harm on a player or an injury. These people that post negative stuff and attacks on human life, it's horrible. They're athletes, but they're human. Go enjoy your money. Go buy a boat. Go have fun. Go do it on Bruce Sherman. Come to a game. Watch it with me. We'll have a great old time. But get off my team.
I think that's it, to be honest with you. And the point you're making there on the Craig Mish clarification, just in case people haven't seen it on Twitter or X or whatever we call it, is the fact that Kim didn't negotiate the contract. And I think Craig specifically leaned into the fact the 4th year was the one. I think it was giving that extra year, an extra $15 million into that 4th year. That was the key bit of this, really, where it ends up being a real albatross of a contract at this point. So, we'll see about what happens in the offseason, and we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Who knows? But gut feel is with a hamstring, Avi's had that issue already, I think, before. It's going to be at least a month, if not slightly more. So probably the end of the road here for Avi. And this year, at least, and maybe with the Marlins. All right, guys, let's talk about our good friends again over at Bunches. Yes, sir. And Locked On Marlins fans, I got to tell you about this new app, and it is called Bunches. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you can chat sports in real time. Click the link in the show notes description to join the app, or go to the Apple App Store and download Bunches now. I'm telling you, you're going to love the conversation with other Locked On sports fans. And Bunches, it's a free app, so that's a win. Bunches is a free app where sports fans chat. Locked On MLB group chat is on Bunches. Go there now and connect with other baseball fans. Chat your favorite team and keep up with the latest MLB news. We're going to talk about some of that real soon. You can download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the notes here to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. Yes, sir. Sounds amazing. Let's get into it. So we're here on Thursday, 24th of August with Chase the Loud Marlins fan as well. Sandy Alcantara has outed the offense, and he has aired his frustrations with the offense. Rightly so. Avisail Garcia to the IL with a hamstring issue. I don't think he's back, and I think that's the end of Avisail Garcia's career in Miami personally. However, within that series, we did see a seriously big rebound from Jesus Luzardo. It has been tough sledding for Jesus Luzardo for around about a month, but finally, he pieces it together. Best outing in at least a month, I'd say, for Luzardo. And this is huge. With Sandy turned the corner, Yuri Perez definitely back at full steam. To have Jesus Luzardo, I think, as well, so the three-headed monster effectively being back, I think that's huge for the Marlins. If Luzardo can keep this consistency all the way through, at least into September, into October maybe, I think that's what the Marlins need to do at this point. But what did you see from Luzardo this time out?
We saw July 23rd, Jesus Luzardo, the guy who pitched the first half of this season, who was there for us. It's funny, right? A week ago, you and I were having that same discussion. Should they make him wait a series? Should he rest a start? Well, with Weathers having to come in for Cueto, that wasn't an option. And, Luzardo showed he has, in the words of the movie, words from Major League 2, the movie, he has the marbles. He came out against that offensive juggernaut San Diego Padres on paper, and he really mowed them down with a shutout win, a shutout victory. That's exactly what we needed, and he did what we expected him to be and to do. If he continues it, there's no way with this rotation of Sandy, Perez, Luzardo, and Braxton Garrett, whoever the fifth is in that, that comes up. With those four, there's no way we do not make the playoffs if our bats swing a little better. But you're excited. You're happy for the hometown kid. You want him to pitch a postseason game in our hometown. So good job, Luzardo. We love you.
Yeah, no doubt. I think one of the other key things from that game, just to very, very, very briefly touch on, is the fact that the bullpen, it got a little bit funky with, Robertson. What's his role? Where's the innings? What's happening? All of a sudden, Skip goes back to Nardi 7th, Scott 8th, Robertson 9th, bang, bang, bang. That's your three, right? That's your most trusted three in exactly that order. For me, I get the matchups thing in general, but more often than not, if you can get 6 out of your starter and you're leading the game and it's a close game, I want to see Nardi, I want to see Scott, and I want to see Robertson in that order. Where's your head at on that one?
You saw my tweets or my X's, whatever you want to say. You went out of the norm on Saturday. You and I haven't talked. You went out of the norm on Saturday. You try to get cute. When you get cute and you go away from the norm, it doesn't work. I understand this matchup and the analytics, but you know what? John Smoltz, he closed when he was a closer, closed against everybody. Uga Thurbina in 03. You know how many 8th innings he pitched? Unless we were up. It seemed like, or a move that Jack McKeon would make when he put Robinson in the 8th inning. That was like Braden Looper style, okay? Yeah, and Braden Looper wasn't a great closer. That's why they brought in Uga Thurbina. But we would call him Blooper because in 2003, when he was come in, anytime before the 9th inning, he would blow the game. If you look at most recently, Anthony Bass. When Anthony Bass was put in the 9th inning, it was the opposite, right? He was good in the 7th.
Yeah.
But you put him in the 9th, he would blow it. You mess with what works, you're going to get hurt. Yep. I'm with you. Nardi 7th, Scott 8th, Robertson 9th inning. And you know what? If he gives up a walk to a guy like Fernando Tatis, it's okay. If he walks to Machado. I liked what he said. 2 things. He got you even had an episode, I believe, on it where he basically blew off blowing the game, saying I had my best stuff. I pitched the best. In Saturday's game. That's what you want out of your closer. You want your closer to have that confidence to say, I did my best. It just didn't work out. Let's move on to the next game.
Yeah.
And he did. You see what happens. The long-winded answer. But if any of the staff, any of the analytics guys are listening, rip them up. Rip up those papers. Yeah, you're getting a Nardi party in the 7th. You're going Great Scott in the 8th. And you're closing out with Robertson because that's why you made that trade. You gave up 2 guys for him to close games, and you live and die by it, right? I'd rather him blow a save in the 9th than have a heartbreaker in the 8th knowing you're not coming back after 3 runs. That's just me. But again, you're right. Nardi party, Great Scott, Robertson, done.
Love it. Great Scott. Great Scott. I absolutely love that one, by the way. Love that one. Let's get into some league news after this, the second ad anyway. There's some big news dropping. Shohei Ohtani injury and Steven Strasberg retirement news. We're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to look ahead to the Nats series and the Marlins pitching and rotation because there's a spot open. Ryan Weathers was optioned. And I think it is time for the Marlins to go streaking. They need to go streaking. It's been a rough stretch. So we're going to talk about that as well. But before we do that, this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Sleeper. Yes, sir, and the graphics are available also if you are watching. Listen, if you want a chance to win more money with less picks, head to Sleeper. It's the #1 sports app where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. So if you think, I don't know, let's think about tomorrow's game. If you think Soler's going to hit a home run, if you think he's going to hit 2 home runs, well, good chance he will do. And on Sleeper, you can swing for the fences. Pardon me, with up to 100 time payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stat categories like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big time. Big time. So use the promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. You can check out Sleeper today. All right, you are here Thursday, 24th of August with me, Peter Pratt, and the Loud Marlins fan, and Chase. Big news dropping this throughout the day, I would say. I'm not sure how the time exactly worked, but let's start with the news that happened earlier. That's the news that Shohei Ohtani has a tear in his UCL. He will not be pitching the rest of the way. I guess they are waiting to assess the impact, the next steps, let's say. But pending free agent Shohei Ohtani, the Angels, they're out of it this year. Ohtani, he's just been a unicorn. He's been the best player maybe there's ever been in baseball. So it feels like a huge blow for Ohtani specifically, for the Angels, but just baseball in general. We don't know, gut feel is here. You end up with Tommy John. That's a year out from pitching. We've seen from a Tommy John perspective with Bryce Harper this year that he can come back and hit. And even so, even Ohtani, just as a straight-up hitter, is still valuable. The timing couldn't be worse for Ohtani, having this injury as you're a pending free agent, the best baseball player, best two-way player of all time, no doubt about that. So huge news dropping, potentially huge, disastrous financial news maybe for Ohtani. I still think he gets a ton of bag from someone, but yeah, big news, mate. What do you make on this one?
It's sad. It just as any athlete getting injured is sad. But when the best athlete gets injured and what he means to that franchise right now and what he means to the future of baseball and the Players Association and money, this hurts it all.
Good point.
What's his decision going to be? Does he get the Tommy John? Is it rehabable? It's all going to come out in detail in the near future. But right now, if I was him, I would shut down. I would have my agent tell the Angels I'm done. Not just pitching, but hitting.
Hitting too, yeah.
You have too much money on the line that any further injury, that any further tear, it's just done. And there's 2 sides of this regarding the franchise of the Angels. One, you respect the owner for going all in and trying to get to the wild card when they were, I think, 3 games out at the deadline. They said we're keeping Ohtani and whatnot. And then they went to Chicago and gave up prospects. But for Ohtani now, that franchise is going to lose him unless he takes a pay cut, and they have nothing to show for it.
No.
Himself, he's going to make, I think, $700 million was somewhere in the ballpark between 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
If he turns into a one-sided player, now he's in Judge money because he's a DH. He may not field. If he could pitch again, he'll be worth the mid 5s to 6. But he just lost $100 million over this. You hope he had insurance. You hope the Angels do the right thing for their franchise, which is cut it all. If you can't sign him, you're going to have to trade Trout. He's going to be a Philly. And I'm going to say that here so I could snip this when he signs. Chase, loud Marlins fans had it. No.
Sources.
Trout needs to go. They need to get back a farm system. And he's the only one that's left to do that for them because they're not going to win now. If he doesn't re-sign, it's just sad for baseball. You and I could discuss the ramifications for hours, but we're already over. So I'm done.
That's true. What it does show to me is, and this point hits home, the Angels have had Shohei Ohtani delivering both pitching and hitting performances just unreal. You got Mike Trout there. I know he's been hurt. He's always hurt, but he's hurt a ton.
Yeah.
You know, they've got some of the best players in the game, and the Angels can't find a way to piece anything together. Baseball is such an intricate game that you rely so heavily on your teammates. A bit like what Sandy's calling out. Like, listen, this is a team game, and the team needs to step up. And so even with the best generational player, the best player maybe ever, the Angels haven't sniffed the postseason. They've not been anywhere close to it in any of these seasons. 2 of them, exactly. Trout's also in the same in that same bucket. So, you know, 2 Hall of Famers playing at the same time, probably. They couldn't get anywhere near the postseason.
You know who hurts the most out of this? I mean, other than Trout and the fan base and whatnot, Ben Verlander. He's got no one else to report on for the rest of the season and no one to kiss butt to. So sorry, Ben. You're going to have to find some new content. Here's a little secret for you. The Miami Marlins. Start talking about them.
Imagine that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. We also got the news as well, Steven Strasberg retiring, which I wouldn't say is a huge shocker. I mean, the dude has struggled mightily with injuries effectively, you know, since he signed that deal. You know, it's the way the timing works. But ends up retiring, I think, 3 or 4 years into a 7-year deal. Like I said, it feels like it's been coming. But boy, oh boy, Strasberg, as a player, as a pitcher, and as a Marlins killer, boy, in many ways, the Marlins are kind of glad to see him gone.
It's a relief to not have to go against him ever again. But at the same time, I mean, I watched his last pitch. As a baseball fan, that's awesome, right? You don't like how it went down with an injury and whatnot, and and that's that. But I was at Strasburg's last game, and that's pretty cool. I've seen him pitch when he was young. I think I was at one of his first games versus the Marlins back whenever that was, 10 years ago or so. And to see his last, congratulations, first off, Steven Strasberg, on your career. You're a World Series champion. You did it without Bryce Harper. You were the World Series MVP. You've been the MVP of that team. You carried them for years on your shoulders, legit on your shoulders and elbows. And now the best thing for you is you get 3 more years of money, because it wasn't, and the Nationals have to pay it because it wasn't insured. So the thing about baseball is, even though you're retiring, you're still going to get paid. Congratulations on doing nothing for the next 3 years and making 26 million per. Share some of that wealth with the guys on here, so Peter Pratt could actually retire and move to the States.
That would be glorious. That would be. We're running along here, Chase, but I did want to talk about the Nats. No. I keep asking the questions, and I just don't stop asking them. So that's why we're running long. But I did want to briefly touch on this Nats series. Firstly, the Nats are hot. So I have to call that out. Is the Nats aren't the Nats that we faced earlier in the year in many ways. They're actually, the Marlins have been really poor after the All-Star break, and the Nats have been really good. And actually, they're coming at this series hot. They traded away some players also. So sometimes you just go on runs, right? I know the Marlins, they need to go on a run right now. But the interesting part for me is the rotation, how it's going to match up here against the Nats. You have, you have an open spot, really. Braxy Garrett, Yuri Perez, and to be determined at this point. Ryan Weathers has already been optioned. So, for me, there's only two main options that I see. You see a Brian Hoeing, George Soriano tandem, and they piggyback it and you kind of bullpen it. Or you promote someone that can give you 4, 5, 6 innings himself. A lot of people talking about maybe Edward Cabrera. I've seen Isaac Azut strongly rebuffing that suggestion that isn't happening. So I'm assuming that he's heard that won't be happening because he's been with the team, it feels like, for weeks and they keep losing. So Isaac, stop following the team. The record when you're following them is poor. But nevertheless, if it was you, Chase, well, no, hold on. What do you think is going to happen? And do you agree with that approach?
There's 3 options. I'll add one to it. Yes, you have your 2 ones that come to mind are bullpen game, Soriano, Brian Hoeing game in some way, shape, or form. Look, Brian Hoeing gave you a good 2.5 innings or 3 innings the other day. Soriano's been lights out, but he didn't do so well in his start. If you remember a few weeks ago, they've already been there, done that. Monteverde, where's he at? He's the one name that shout out, just like I did on their thing. Shout out to Fish on First on yours. They've been talking. Alex Carver has been talking about Monteverde for months, saying he needs to get a shot. He needs to get a shot. No better shot to help your team when they're on a playoff run. I don't know how the rotations. I don't follow the minors. But if you're going to bring someone up and promote somebody, it's not going to be Eddie. I don't want Edward Cabrera and his walks coming back. I want a chance. I want somebody who's no one's seen. That's so, the Marlins have faced first-time pitchers this season, and that, the Marlins get lit up, we'll say, or strikes out because you just don't know the video on the guy or whatnot. So I'd like to see Monteverde up. If not, a bullpen game. Every team has them. You have Cueto hopefully coming back for the next start after the 10 days are up, and he could come back without needing a rehab start, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this, Tommy Nance, still waiting for him to join the team, and he could give you a couple innings too.
Yeah, I feel like, was Tommy Nance recalled yesterday? I don't know. I'm losing track of days here. It's possible he has been. But I did want to just mention briefly that just on Edward Cabrera, he has faced the Nats once this year, and he went 5 innings. The interesting part in that start was there were 6 Ks, 0 walks. 0 walks against the Nats. I think I'm looking through the game log here. It's the only game all season in 2023 that Edward Cabrera had 0 walks against the Washington Nationals. So I don't know what that means, but it means maybe he does get the opportunity. And it's one of those where I don't think the days sync up properly, but as we know, there's nothing, the Marlins are perfectly comfortable kind of shifting guys around, and you drop Eddie and earlier maybe push Yuri back a day or 2 to give him an extra rest day. Not that he really needs it, I guess, because he's already had the off day anyway built in there. But either way, I just want to call out that Eddie has had his probably, well, from a walks perspective, had his best start of the season against the Nats. So we'll wait to see. But my gut feel is that it's going to be a Brian Hoeing or a George Soriano start. Maybe there's an opener and then the 2 guys kind of take it on. I think it kind of depends on what happens the day before, though, because Yuri's going to be pitching the day before. And if next thing is, he ends up only going 4 innings because he's on this tight pitch count, then that's going to impact the 3rd game. And so I think that's the really critical point of this series, is that spot is really in flight, and it's going to depend on how deep Yuri Perez can go in game 2 on Saturday. We're way long, but it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot going on, both with the Marlins and across the league. It's been a lot of fun, though, guys, and thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much again for Chase joining me on a Thursday. Chase feels like he's on regular rotation on a Thursday now, which is great. Also, the cap is looking sexy, which is impressive. For those that can't see this, head on over to YouTube. You know where to get it. But guys, thanks again. And of course, it's a it's a daily pod. So I will see you tomorrow as we actually look ahead to game 1 against the Nats. We'll see you then.